remind me to record this every week. Um, I started a couple years ago wearing the skull cap underneath, the hard shell cap. I've gone through a couple different iterations of it, but yeah. So yeah, Jeff posted in there. I had that one. I ended up going with a different one that's not. It's probably a little cheaper. Cheaper version of it, a little more like a coach's helmet. The Cobalt one for me, it just didn't feel right, and it kind of I got a big head, so it kind of looked funny. To be honest with you, so I try to get one that looked more like a helmet. But those you're seeing more and more of those at the pro level and even the high school level. So that one's good. They'll have those at Wheaton if you want to try one on. The only drawback for me is it's kind of hot compared to a regular hat. So if you sweat a lot like I do, like it gets a little warm. But I wore it I wore one every single game last year for the first time. So, oh wow, yeah, minor league baseball requires a skull helmet now, so that'll start pushing it more towards being accepted. But it does give you more protection on you know stuff that's out of the ordinary, right? And if you're new to, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to not turn your head every once in a while. Um, if you flinch and turn your head, then there's no protection on the sides, right? So if you feel more comfortable with a hockey style mask or with the skull cap, I would do it. Like um, it's another expense, but you only get one head, only get one brain. So anything else on the equipment? All right, we'll get going through here. Training sessions, they are yeah, except for the everything's right except for the Belvedere Clinic. I thought I changed it on there, but um, that one is that will be updated as soon as we're done this call. On the 21st, Belvedere High School. More information as we go on that and to the registrants. It will be on the I just say website. Hopefully tomorrow. I've been waiting to connect with the AD there to make sure it happens and everything's is buttoned up before I curse it and put it on the HSA website. So that's why you don't see it there now. But don't worry that once I send it in a day later, it'll be there. So you'll need that. Newer people, you need to do that um, once every 3 years as a requirement to keep your license. Guys that want to work postseason, you have to have a clinic every year. Guys that are going for promotion have to have a level 2 clinic in the year they're going for promotion. So make sure you just get a level 2, or you sign the level 2 sign-in sheet um, at the clinic. So any softball guys, there is softball um, sessions on Tuesdays. We finally got a full session, somebody to fully commit to doing that. David Taylor is running those sessions for us this year. All Tuesdays except for one Wednesday for that. So if you do both sports, David Taylor's a really good guy to learn from on Tuesday nights. I think Collis actually made a couple of appearances there. So if you want to go kiss his ass a little bit, the Tuesday nights on Zoom is where you can do that. Um, these sessions are different every week. This is just the intro. Usually we go through, pick a topic. This week, and then we do some video review stuff. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So yeah, these sessions are different every week. There's no credit for them. It's optional. I'm going to remember to record from the beginning starting next week. And then once I'm done, I'm going to upload these to YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel for FVB. And so if you miss it, you want to catch the sessions, you can go back and watch it, and you can fast forward it so I talk faster and you can get through it quicker if you would like. We do have a training schedule. Um, it's just a Google sheet, so if you wanted to see what that schedule is or as things changes, that is update. That's my record of what we're doing. So, all right, first we're going to go through some rule changes for the year. There's not a ton this year. The first one is actually um, in anticipation for 2027. They're adding the double first base in. is a mandatory thing in 2027. This year it is optional. So there's a chance you will see these on the field this year. Um, it's going to be interesting because the way they wrote the rule is going to cause some confusion, and I think maybe cause more collisions at first base. But it is gonna we're gonna it's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a something we've got to deal with every single game, starting in 2027. This year, it'll show up and it'll either be there or it won't, and it won't matter. But if it's there, you got to enforce it just the way they're saying here. Um, so there's a bunch of rules where this all happened and changed. Um, but ultimately we've had orange bases in summer games for a long time. College went to the double first base and they had a green base this last year. So this year it's got to be a white base and a solid color base. Okay, so if I say orange base, that's as I'm talking, that's what I mean by the solid color base. Um, so the first time down, um, the defense has to use the white base, and the batter runner has to use the orange side or the colored side of the base. Okay, on the initial play. Um, After they run through the base, it disappears. Right, the orange base doesn't exist. Nobody can use it. If the runner runs past, comes back, they have to go to the white base. If they dive back in, on a pickoff, they have to use the white base. The orange base isn't there. If they're touching just the orange base and get tagged, they're out. Okay, so it's an initial touch by. They did throw in this caveat where, um, if the ball's in foul territory on a drop third strike, and the ball's on the outside, then they can switch. So then the defense uses the orange base, offense uses the white base, but only on the one time by. So it does have that did have put that caveat in there so you're not stretching over. But that's only on that specific situation. So if there's a bad throw from the third baseman and they're stretching across, and first baseman stretching across into foul territory to catch it, he has to use the white base. And even though if he's stretching over top of the orange base, then he's still like he can't just switch to the orange and they can switch. So there's a chance if this doesn't go well this year, they can make some tweaks to it before next year, but this is what we got right now. So ultimately the if something goes wrong at the base, right? Um, it is interference of the defenders on the white base. And they put that in there. And an obstruction if they are on the orange base and there's a collision. So the defender is on the orange base where he's not supposed to be, and there's a collision, it's obstruction. And if he's on the white base and there's a collision, then it's interference. So that's it. It did. They wrote that into the rule, where it would be very specific on that part, which is not normal for obstruction interference, which we'll cover a lot of that this winter. So I don't know if we'll see a lot of it this year or not. I don't know if this is a popular change with a lot of schools. So um, you might not see this until it has to be implemented, but there's a chance you might see it some out there.
So, just to touch back on that real quick, when you say interference, are we going to get an out at that point? And then with the obstruction, are we going to keep the runner at first base?
Yeah, I think it's a play by ear type thing. I wouldn't do anything out of the ordinary extra on it, but I think if you need to call one way or the other, this is like the deciding factor of what you're going to call. I don't think every collision at first base is going to have to be one or the other. I think you can still have the train wreck plays, not have anything. But I think it's more if you're going to call something happens, right? And there's got to be some kind of call on it, one way or the other. This is the tiebreaker is the positioning of the defender. That makes sense. And that's just Alan McCormick's take on it. I don't know. I haven't read enough on that to know exactly or seen any authoritative opinion on it, one or the other. But that's my take on it. Is if you're going to call something, this is the tiebreaker on the positioning. All right. Any other questions on that? All right. So the next one is actually a speed up rule. Um, and really one of the only big changes this year that go into effect this year. So in an effort to stop there being so many times where the shortstop goes and talks to the pitcher, or the catcher goes and talks to the pitcher, um, they're putting a limit on the number of player. They're calling it defensive player meetings um, during the game. So they put a definition of what that means. So if there's two or more players that discuss like are talking and delaying the game, right? That counts as a player meeting. They're allowed to have one per inning, and then anything after that, they're not allowed to have it. So it runs pretty similar to the offensive player offensive conference rule, where we're now a coach and a player can only talk once an inning, right? And then after that, you just don't allow it. So this is the same thing. There's no penalty for it, right? So if they try to do it, you just tell them no. Or if they all of a sudden now they're collecting, there's two players collecting by the mound to talk, you break it up and keep it moving. Um, but I think this one is, I think it's a first step towards a bigger, longer term solution for this. And I think they're dipping their toe in the water and seeing how this works. College baseball, I don't know what the number is, but they put a limit on it, like the MLB did, um, for a number per game. I'm not sure what that number is, but um, this is the this this is a new rule for this year. So, question: after catcher throws down after last warm up pitch and goes to the mound, does that count as a player meeting? I would say yes, it will. So, we're ready to go and they're slowing it down, then yeah, I would count that as their player meeting.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's two. The definition is just um, two defensive players is all it says. So it could be pitcher and anyone else, or just two players that are talking. Like I would make sure it's holding the game up, right? If the pitcher is getting ready to throw and the second baseman or shortstop run over to talk to each other for a second, I wouldn't count it as that. But if it's something that's making the game not move, the progression of the game, then then I would then would count it. I haven't seen any like case plays or anything on this, so I did say I was a little aggressive on the yes that we're going to count. That's again Alan McCormick's take on it at this point in January before the season starts. I've not seen um I've not seen an official like case play on this yet. The interpretations haven't come out for the season yet, but the rule changes did. So the
Uh,
way it's written is if there's a meeting that holds that stops play or slows down, then it counts. So I would say at this point yes, but again that might change. There might be an official ruling coming out. Looks like Jeff, you want to say something?
yeah, I was listening into some meetings in Florida as they start up next week or so in this. There are some exceptions, and it's up to the umpire judgment. For example, let's say they already used their beating, but the catcher gets crossed up, you can allow another meeting for something like that. It's
Okay.
something like you can walk out there with their suggestion, you walk out there with them, make sure that's all they're talking about and stuff like that. And then our group, I don't know what the state here is going to do, but I know down there they're saying like those meetings, like when after a catcher throws it down, everybody gathers at the mound. They're saying if they're talking strategy, if you believe they're talking strategy and you're actually delaying it, charge them. If not, just let it go. It's kind of like what we do in doing the college game as well. And then the other one sometimes that came up a lot of questions was is on a pitching change after that catcher warms up, after the new pitcher warms up, sometimes the catcher will go out there and talk to them, they say because they're at the same visit as the pitching change when the coach came out to make the change.
Okay. Yeah, so if they have to, yeah, I forgot to add that in, but if it's around a charged conference by the defense and the meeting doesn't count as that. So it can't count as both things, right? The other spot I saw just some chatter, on some of the officiating forums is, a lot of times the culture is, if you get hit by a foul ball or a pitch, the catcher will go out and give you some time, go talk to the pitcher. I think that kind of it could fall into what Jeff had said, right? Is you're granting that exception to it. Um, it'd be interesting if we get any guidance on that. I kind of go back and forth a little bit. Um, but I don't know. I don't know the official opinion on that. I think I probably would let him go out there and as soon as I'm ready, they're ready to go. They're not really delaying the game, but there's that's another situation where it's kind of umpire driven. Like, hey, yeah, thank you. He's trying to help you out, right? And now you're hitting him with a defensive player meeting hit. But
In high school, how many defensive meetings do they get? Is it a per inning or a game per game limit?
they get three per game,
Game. Okay.
free one, so they can go out three times without
In the
penalty,
game.
and then one per every inning in extra innings, but not cumulative. Then, um, and then so on that, the penalty for going over that is that they have to change the pitcher. So if they go the fourth one, the pitcher has to change every single time. It can go three times in a row in the same batter if they wanted to with no penalty. So it's a little bit different than pro ball. But yeah, so three for free, and then the fourth one cost them a pitching change.
Hey, John Barry, check out page 33, section 4 of your rule book.
Thank you.
Section 4 on page 33 of your rule book.
Okay, any other questions on this part? This is brand new, so this will be a learning experience for everybody as you go through the year. But um, yeah, so it's one per inning per team. So really, it still could be a ton. There's no limit on it. But this will keep. I think it'll be where they have to be more strategic about when they use it. So they'll talk themselves out of using it, and hopefully that inning ends and they don't end up using it. So
Hey, Al, I'm going to jump in there real quick.
yep.
Okay, so I'm looking through the preseason guide, and the examples for that on page 2 are just terrible. They're talking about denying guys to go out if pitcher and a catcher is crossed up on a second attempt. I personally would not stop a catcher from going out and talking to the pitcher if they're crossed up, because I don't want to be wearing a pitch or getting hit myself. But I would make sure that you go out there with them and make sure that, hey, we're going with the first set of signals, and are you good with that? Yep, fine, great. And then break it up and get back to the game. So that's just my personal opinion on that. So again, like Al said, there's probably more to come through the years on this, and there's probably going to be penalties that will come from it later on in life.
Yep. I would assume that this will be covered in the IHSA preseason meeting, so they'll cover it at some point. Um, I would think Sam Knox, the IHSA, the head of baseball for IHSA, would give some kind of guidance out there about this as the season gets closer. So, um, and then the other one um, is really to kill the YouTube stars, TikTok stars, from the baseball field. No players allowed to wear an audio or video device during the game. So if you see that, just get rid of it. But they're not allowed to wear a GoPro on their helmet or wear a microphone recording what they're doing. That seems to be a popular thing with umpires now, and the youth level is recording their dialogue of the game. Um, I'm guessing maybe the players are doing it too because I haven't seen. I'm not on that side of social media, but you so that is something that you watch out for. If you see a microphone on somebody or they're wearing a video camera, just make sure they get rid of it. I have not seen that at all. Um, I would assume most high school coaches will shut that down. But it must have been a problem somewhere if they added it on here. So, a couple other things I didn't make a slide for, but points of emphasis. The one I want to highlight is the bench jockeying. Um, this has been it's been I think it's been an issue for a few years now, and it's actually for a long time. Some teams are worse than others. Um, it's where the bench turns into a cheerleading section, the student section, instead of the game participants. So I think the picture I see, I don't know, I'm not gonna hold up the camera because it won't show right, but um, they bring props out when they hit a home run. Um, they they have they make the styrofoam cup guns, and they make chants, and they yell stuff out during the game. Um, they're allowed to do like the chanting and that kind of stuff as long as they're not trying to mess the pitcher up as they're doing. Like they're not timing their chants to do it right as the pitcher is about to throw the ball. Um, they're not de- saying derogatory things towards the pitcher or the batter, or there's a line there, right? And it's hard to police, especially because it's going to be the plate umpire most of the time. It's going to hear most of it, and you're trying to focus and do what you're supposed to do. But that's where that kind of stuff is what steamrolls into the crap that happens later on in the game and the confrontations. Um, so that is a point of emphasis this year is to um, just be cognizant of it, right, and be aware of it, and make sure you're addressing it um, when you do see it and do hear it, address it and stop it early on, right? You don't have to yell and scream and be mad about it, right? Um, but you should um, let them know, right? And let them know, hey, we're not going to do that, right? If you hear it, call the head coach over. It's like, hey, that's over the line. They can't. This is what they did with those over the line. You need to get them to stop, right? Address it once. If it keeps happening, give a warning. And you don't want to eject somebody for it, but if you have to sacrifice one to get the point across, then it's going to happen, right? There's all the years like I've seen. There's a couple schools that are way over the top, right? And but the majority of the schools are not that way. It seems like the bigger the roster, the more problems you have. Um, so the more people on the bench, they have nothing better to do than cause chaos, then you're going to get some of that stuff. But don't be afraid to address it when it happens or as it's happening. If they cross the line, like address the problems. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse, right? It's just going to steamroll out. And there's times where like you could try to address it and try to handle it, and it's just going to steamroll anyway, right? Um, but do everything you can to. You don't have to get like again. You don't have to get mad. You don't have to scream and yell, but like to stop it from happening. Stop the game. Talk to the coach. Don't scream at the dugout. I'm guilty of that sometimes. Let the emotion. You get. I don't know if you can. I think once you get to a certain point, you're gonna have a little rat ass in your game. But try not to try not to show it when you don't have to. Um, I would say the other thing too. So you were talking to some of the newer guys. Now that I'm, I guess, like now that I'm an assigner, I never thought I would say that, but I'm,
Yes.
Now that I am, and when I first started, I was afraid, right? I was scared to death that if I ejected somebody, Jeff Collins is never going to give me a game again, right? That's where I was. And I let situations steamroll and blow up and go way beyond where they should be because I was scared that Jeff Collins, who was just this man behind the email that I never, hardly only met a couple times in real life, was going to stop getting a game. So now that I'm in the position where I control people's schedules, right? Ejections happen, right? If you handle yourself the way we're going to teach you how to do it, the way you're supposed to, and you're professional, ejections are going to happen, right? It doesn't mean it doesn't mean you handle the situation poorly. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong, right? But they're going to happen. You can't just eject somebody just to eject somebody. You shouldn't mess up a by rule ejection, right? You should get those right. There's no excuse for some of that for misinterpreting a rule and getting an ejection. But the behavior ejections and the discipline, they talks about in here a little bit about the discipline ejections and coaches and players being jerks. Yeah, you need to address it. You don't have to be a jerk back to address it, right? Be professional, be polite as much as you can. Okay, but when it happens, you got to get rid of. Like my last game I worked last year. Okay, it was with a coach for a team that I heard nothing, but I had never seen him before. I never had a game with him before. Um, but I had heard all the stories, right? That he was at one school and got run out because he was a jerk. Went to another school, was got ejected a couple times this year. Was a jerk the entire year, and we had him in the first, one of the semifinal games, and he was fine. He didn't, but they won. They won by 12 runs, and it was no big deal. I was working third base. He was shooting the shit with me, and he was fine. He didn't care. Like he was nicest guy in the world. But as soon as the championship game happened, he turned into like just everything he could. And honestly, like I tried to keep him in the game, right? I tried not to eject him, right? Which was probably more than I should have done, right? There was time he's right up against the line all the time, but in the end, in the God, we were literally one pitch away from ending the game, but a batter didn't like a strike two, and it was bottom of the seventh and 2 outs, nobody on base. Didn't like strike two, but he turns and he goes, the kid said to me, "You've been doing that shit all game, right?" To me, so I called time. I gave him a warning. Say, hey, knock it off, right? Even more than I should have, right? And then he said, "You've been doing that shit all game." So like I threw him out. Like we're one pitch away from going home, and I can just get out of there. But it's got to happen, right? Like you can't like it's if I don't deal with that, he's gonna do it again, right? He's not gonna care. He was the coach's son too, which makes this whole story like even worse. Um, but you know what? And then he called me a bitch after that, which was interesting. And then, but you know what? It was the right thing to do in that situation, right? You don't just because it's the end of the game and you could just let it go. I'm not going to let it go anymore, right? Um, Looking back, changing what I would have done. I was addressing the coach the entire game. I was at one point gave him a warning. I didn't restrict him to the bench, back and forth. I would have probably thrown him out probably in the fourth inning and been done with it. And then it probably would have settled down by the end. But it was a close game. It's a regional championship game. It was, bigger. It was more. It seemed like it was more intense. It was more on the line. So like you give them a little more rope. But looking back, it probably was a mistake to do that, right? And I'm the one that tells everybody else how to handle situations all winter time, and it's still hard to do. But if it does cross the line, it gets it's and I'm a big one. You can probably tell this boy, the language I use sometimes just talking here, right? The like swearing and stuff does not bother me typically, right? Unless it's directed at me, right? Like he's directing that at me. Like honestly, if a coach said that was a terrible effing call, right? And I played second base, I it does not bother me. But if he goes, you're an effing idiot, or you missed that effing call, then it's gone. There's the injection, right? There's lines there. Everybody's going to have their own allowance for that kind of stuff. I can't tell you here's what you should this is what you take, this is what you shouldn't take. The rule is very much like any um profanity should be an ejection or a warning and then an ejection. The hockey rule book. My son played hockey for all these years. He refs hockey now. There, USA Hockey is if you swear, even if it's not directed at anybody, it's a 10-minute misconduct, right? And that would you would have everybody in the penalty box in a hockey game, right? So there's like it's I think it's there as a tool that you can use, but I don't think it's meant to. A kid gets mad, he gets thrown out first base by 15 feet, and then screams, you know, he rounds first base and goes, "God damn it!" or drops an F-bomb. Who cares, right? It's not hurting anybody. It's out. I work in a school and just walking in the hallway, you hear that stuff, right? It's just part of their normal verbiage, right? And it's going to happen. But again, you have your own tolerance level, you have your own way you see those things, um, but it's kind of you try to what's acceptable, what's not, and you just got to get to a point you got to be able to understand what's there or not. That goes across the board with strike zones. It goes with just a lot of different things with umpiring. We're not going to be able to touch them all tonight, but there's an acceptable way that at the freshman level, what's expected for a game to be umpired. There's an acceptable level that what happens at a sophomore game. There's acceptable level of what happens at a varsity game. There's acceptable level that what happens in a game in Rockford versus Crystal Lake versus St. Charles versus Winnebago versus Galena, right? I've learned that throughout my career. When I first started working regional games, they would send me out west the first week I was in Freeport at one point. I was at Oregon High School. And trying to umpire the games is just different, right? I was used to working in towards Crystal Lake and St. Charles and that area. I think I was living in DeKalb at the time, and it was just a different world, right? It was a different feel. Like there's acceptable levels. You're going to learn that level, right? Guys come in, you're going to learn what everything feels like at a freshman level and what everything feels like acceptable at a sophomore level. And you're going to go to a varsity game, and it's going to be a different world, right? Um, and then if you're working varsity games, you go to a college baseball game, right, and work that, it's completely different, right? My claim to fame is that I worked with Ben Williams. Okay, some of the college guys that are on here probably know, right? He worked with me on his first college game ever, right? And the difference, there's a big difference, or at least there was. I'm not sure if it is anymore. The guys that are doing it can let me know. But you go to the plate meeting, right? In high school, they rip off a copy and hand it to you, and then rip off a copy, hand it to the other coach. In college, they hand you the whole thing, and then it's like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this, right? So there, you're supposed to look at it, confirm it, and then give copies to everybody. So that was Ben's a hyped up guy, right? Out of the most thing I said, the most important thing you need to know, they're going to hand you all the lineup cards. You have to look at them and hand them to copies to people, right? So that was my, so that was I was on the track to the Division III College World Series for Ben Williams. So if I didn't help him out in that first game, he never would have made it to where he's at today. I think he's some bigwig now. With I don't even know. He told me what his job was. I don't remember what it was, but he's some bigwig in D3 baseball now.
He's an assigner.
So not a bigwig then. Any schmuck can be an assigner. But yeah, so that's there's long ways. You're going to learn to work the level that you're at to get comfortable at the level you're at. Once you're comfortable there, then you can make the steps up, and The game is different. The rule book's the same. Everything strike zone's the same. All the rules are the same. But what you do at those levels and what's acceptable at those levels is gonna vary. It's gonna be different, and you're gonna have to learn that as you go. The only way you can learn that is working games. All right, we're gonna get into some videos here. This first video, there's no, I took the sound out on these videos. There's some really good videos on closecallsports.com. Um, there's a person that's named Lindsay that goes through, and every time I raise my hand, the yellow hand shows up. Um, Goes through and breaks down either weird plays or ejection videos for MLB games. So as the regular season and postseason for MLB comes up, um, they post all the videos and a breakdown of every single ejection and what went wrong or not. So they're really good. Used to be just a video, which was great. Now there's a lot of heavy editing on there and a lot of stupid commentary, so I just mute the videos now. But the content's still pretty good. So this one is from a Cubs postseason game, um, and involves an infield fly. So we'll watch the video. So when we go through videos here, we'll watch it one or two times, and then we'll kind of just be kind of what you got, right? With these videos, you really want, or even when you watch videos online, right? It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to see different plays. Great way to gain experience. But the takeaway from each video, you should be able to say, okay, what's the call? Okay, why is the call there? That's all the work you can do with it. We should always talk through what do I say to the coach when he comes out and ask about the play. Because the controversial plays, especially the ones we'll show here, a lot of times they'll come out and they're going to ask you. They're going to be mad or just confused, and you need to give an explanation. So when you're answering these, it's going to be, "Hey, what's the right call?" That's half the battle. Another half is explaining um, what happened, right? So we'll watch through this. If I can get, hold on a second. It is. I'm gonna put the link to the video in the chat in case the video doesn't play for you. It's been getting better, but sometimes the internet will be a little bit slow. Yeah, first and second, 1 ounce. We'll play that again. All right, so what do you got there? We don't care what the do this again. Controls. We can get this out here.
Since the fielder couldn't make a play with easy effort, then I believe it's the correct call not to call anything on that.
Okay. So typically, so um to be on an infield fly situation, right? The definition is a fly ball that can be caught by a fielder or by a fielder with ordinary effort, right? It doesn't have to be on the infield. It has to be caught by an infielder with ordinary effort. Is that true on this play? Right, you have a high pop up that lands just in front of the first baseman, or just in front of first base. Let's watch another. The video controls are right underneath the PowerPoint controls, so I kind of. So normally, right, on that fly ball with no other outside interference, right, an infielder is going to be, especially a major league fielder, is going to be able to catch that with ordinary effort, right? What was the outside influence on this play that caused it so it couldn't be called ordinary effort?
I guess he lost it in the sun. However, when I'm looking at the replay, his first is move by Bush is putting his hands up as, and I would interpret that as I got it. Look at his hands are up.
Yeah, but he's not tracking the ball, right?
How can you tell?
Because he didn't run after it, right?
Oh,
So you don't so one you don't have to call it immediately, right? And weather can be part of it, right? So on a windy day, right?
yeah,
Part of the pregame is going to be, hey John, it's windy today. Let's be slower on the infield fly calls to make sure, right?
right.
The sun can be part of that too, right? So all the influence on the weather and the sun and all that stuff all play a part in that. So on this play, they said that because the sun was in the first base's eyes, he couldn't track the ball. Then it is an infield fly. It's not an infield fly. It took more than ordinary effort to catch that ball. So then play on, right? Then the runners are the runners are at liability to be forced out at other bases, and it's a unique one, right? I don't know if I've seen one that is that high in the air and that you know to where that would not be called. I mean, you probably could make a case that the pitcher sees it, he points right at it, right, and he
Right.
runs away
Yeah.
from it, right. So you could have made the case that he could have caught it with ordinary effort, but typically in a major league baseball game, the pitcher's not catching anything, right? They're there to get out of the way. So
Out
based
of
on that,
curiosity,
that's why they
was it
made
a
the
force
call.
out at second?
I don't know if they show the rest of the play. I
It
think
sure
so.
looks like it because he's so close to first. The guy who's on
I'm pretty sure they throw him on to second base.
second base. Yeah.
I don't even know if he throws it. So there's just another angle. So that ball is hard for the second baseman, the catcher. He doesn't throw it because
Oh, no one was
Cubs
cut.
played
No one
shitty in
was
that
covering
series.
second.
Cubs played terrible in that series as well. So yeah, so here's some of the. So if you go through and look, you can see like they'll give the it's always the OBR definition. Sometimes they'll throw a Fed rule, high school rule in there and explain it. So yeah, so on an infield fly, just think doesn't matter where the ball is at. If it could be cut, well, it's got to be a fair ball, but as long as the ball is fair and it's a fly ball, if it can be called ordinary effort, then it's an out, right? You announce the out, and point and yell, and both umpires point and yell. Um, on with your partner in the pregame, make sure that you um, go over this. It bit me that's another like I was working with a guy I hadn't worked much with before. It was one of my playoff games early in the year out west, and we had a different mechanic for infield fly, and it did bite us, right? Where um I was always on the my training and stuff was always the base guy. It was a pop up to the shortstop beyond the dirt, right? It's on the dirt or just in the outfield grass, and that was the base guy is going to call that, right? He's going to call and yell. I'm just going to point and echo whatever he says. Um, he was always trained, and he was a veteran guy at the time. He was always trained that it was all those calls are the plate umpires, right? And so I was the plate umpire, he was the base umpire. He doesn't call anything, right? So I'm like, well, if he's not calling and it's right in front of him, but he must see something I don't, right? This is not an easy catch, but easy enough where it should have been an infield fly. Um, so neither one was call anything, right? And then they drop the ball, and then the circus comes to town, right? And then that's when we learned that we have a different interpretation about who's supposed to call that play, right? So that's one of the I guess one of the highlights of my career that made me change the way I do everything, right? So since that game, we always talk about infield fly. If you see it, call it. Okay. If it's close, the only other time is if it's close to the line, give it to the plate guy because he's got to tell if it's a fair ball or not. He's going to make that determination. But anything out in the middle, as long as once you have determined it's a new fly, call it, points, yell, make sure everybody hears you. And if you see your partner call it, echo that call so more people hear it. And then If they drop the ball, the circus will still come to the town. So, and be ready for that. On this play, if you call this and it's not ordinary effort, be ready to explain to the coach why it was not ordinary effort. What part of the explain the rule to him, why you thought it that way, and just explain it to him the best you can. But be ready as the coach is coming. Be ready to talk. Have it in your head. Let him talk first. Just like if your wife is mad and she comes at you, starts questioning things, let her talk first, right? Make sure you know why she's mad and what she's questioning about you, and then you can answer those questions. Only don't admit to any other crimes that she doesn't know about yet. All right, so this is a pop-up that's back towards the dugout and the interaction between the batter and the catcher on that play. We'll get a better look here in a second. All right, let's try to fast forward here. Maybe. There we go. Nope, never mind. All right, so in that situation, we'll try to do one more if I can get the right spot. And what do you got in that situation? There is contact, but the actual contact doesn't matter, right? It helps you sell your call, but doesn't matter by rule. And what happens when the catcher just drops the ball? Maybe they're not going to show it there. The catcher just dropping the ball doesn't matter either. Okay. This interaction is all that matters. Right? So what do you got? And why? Who's brave enough to unmute and tell me why?
Well, the batter was still in the box.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
or he was close. He was
could have
close.
went around him.
No, he was still in the box.
Because at this point, the ball,
Or you're cutting out
right?
a little bit there.
So, I mean, I'm saying the catcher ran into the batter
Okay.
and still
I
had a
agree.
chance to make the play.
I agree.
The catcher also puts his arm up as he's running into the batter. He almost ran into the batter intentionally. If I was running, I would not be running with my left arm tucked against my chest.
Okay. But does that matter?
Well, I guess in this case, they said that was interference. I would be Leo DeRocha questioning that call.
All right. So what is the responsibility of the batter on this play? What can the batter do to not risk a chance to be called for interference? Okay. He could run to first base, right? But it's back, right?
Right.
Staying in the box. We have stay in the box. He can't because he was in the box. He stayed in the box and it was interference, right? The box is not a safe haven, right? The box it's a reference point, right? But it's not always a safe haven, right? There's times when because he's in the box, he's like it's a reference point in an explanation, but it's not a be all end all. It's not a free zone. It's not a safe zone for the batter. Okay. What's his response? His responsibility is to not interfere with the catcher, right? So on this play, that ball is up. He needs to be out of the way, right? And the questions you're going to ask and is going to be, well, where's he supposed to go, right? Is not in the way, not there, right? Not in the way. He needs to make an effort to get out of the way, right? Okay, he can move forward, he can move backward, he can move left, right, anywhere he wants, but he can't stand there in the way of the catcher trying to make a play, right? Does it matter how the catcher's running or if the catcher could run into him on purpose, right? If he's trying to go catch the ball, right? Then that batter can be held for interference. The great thing about baseball is if this was a ground ball back to the pitcher, right? And that collision happens right as well, it's more like a this happens where there's a bunt or there's a chopper like right out in front, and it's mostly the right-handed batter, but the runner's running and the catcher's trying to get the ball and they run into each other. Okay, it's a different call. It's a different ruling, right? Because there is an exception there where like in that situation they're both doing what they're supposed to do, and it's called a tangle untangle play where the runner's doing what he's supposed to do, the catcher's doing what they're supposed to do, and they're both allowed to be in the same spot, and it happens. But on this, right, this play is similar to um, on a steal play, right? The right-handed batter pitch down the middle. The catcher comes up to throw and hits the bat hits the batter with the throw, right? You have to decide did the batter do anything to interfere, right? And this is the same way in this play. That batter by staying there was interfering with the catcher's ability to catch the ball, right? So then that's interference. It's interference as soon as it happens. So him dropping the ball means nothing. Okay, it is the act of interference is the interference. The batter's out, but then the runner's return. Same thing on that steal play. The batter could if the catcher comes up and the batter's just standing there and hits him in the head. Okay, it's nothing, but we just keep going, right? If that batter, what you'll see sometimes will take a step back right into the lane of the catcher, and then there'll be contact or the ball hits him, then you have interference, right? The batter's choice and the option the batter had on that situation on the steal is to stay still, and it would have been not doing anything to interfere. They did do something to interfere, so then it's interference. So that's the on this stuff that we'll talk a lot about obstruction and interference because they're hard, right? And there's little things that change the outcome of the play and change the ruling, and being able to understand that stuff and be able to explain the stuff when it happens is what separates the average umpire from the good umpire, right? Is being able to handle the game. It's handling situations. That's the biggest thing in umpiring. If you're able to handle situations, you can be average on the rules, right, and still be and handle situations well and still be okay. All right, so question on this. So same pop up.
Hey, Alan.
Hold on one second,
So
Jose. Let me get this one first. All right, question in the chat was same pop up to where there's a runner on base. Is the responsibility of the runner to impede, alter the defender getting the ball? Responsibility of the runner not to impede. Yes. So so it's a say pop up to the shortstop. Is that what you're talking about? So like there's or runner say pop up to the second. There's a runner on first. Pop up to the second baseman. It is the runner's responsibility to not interfere with the fielder fielding the ball. Okay. So, but you have to choose which fielder to protect. So like in that situation, if the second baseman is obviously going to catch the ball, right? But the shortstop gets in the way, then it's obstruction by the shortstop. But if the runner plows through the second baseman or runs into the second baseman or impedes them, then the runner will be out. not for interference, and then then you have a dead ball in that situation. So yeah. So Jose, what was your question?
It was kind of the same. So if the first baseman is the one who was catching the ball, is that matters what happened with the catcher and the batter?
No. So you're protecting one fielder on display.
Okay.
So yeah. So you still would choose the fielder protect. So yeah. So that pop up is closer to first base. Then you got nothing on that play.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but so that does matter. You have to protect the fielder. But since where the ball was at, the catcher had the best opportunity to catch that ball. Yeah, if the
Got it.
catcher goes back and tries to catch it, and then the pitcher is down there and gets away with the runner, then you have obstruction.
Okay.
All right, everybody got that or confused, one or the other? It's okay. It's okay to be confused in January. Once we get to the season, then we'll get you ready before we get there. All right, we got one more video. So this is a check swing play. There might be two more videos. This is a check swing play. It's going to come up right away. I have the video cut to where the check swing happens. So he said he didn't go, right? Oh, too far. All right, so on that side of it, right? Did he swing? Do you have a swing or not? And how do you tell if there's a swing or not? So we don't get a real good view, right? We don't get a right up down the line. Okay. What do we what is the criteria for a swing? By what rulebook definition of what a swing is? Okay. About the ones the highlights of the ones I've heard over the years, right? Um, the the batter broke his wrists, which that would really hurt really bad, right? I've never seen a batter break his wrists on while he's playing. Um, the bat crossed the front of the plate. Hey, the bat. There's I just see what the barrel is parallel to the front of the plate. Um, all that stuff is wrong, right? There is no, the rule book definition is the batter attempted to strike at the pitch. Okay. So a loose interpretation of that is, well, he took the bat off his shoulder. He meant to swing at it. That's a strike, right? If it's, he swung to here, that's a, like, but it's not, right? That's, if you do that, you're going to get massacred, right? It's really, for me, right? The only rule set that I know of that has a definition of what a swing is the college rule book. Okay, and I use it as a guide for me on if it's a swing or not, because that's all I got, right? That's the only one that's out there that says a definite what it is. And I hope Terry T-Bird correct me if we're wrong on this, but if the barrel of the bat crosses in front of the front hip of the batter or the front leg of the batter. I'm probably messing this up now, I can tell, but then it's a swing. So if it's the barrel of the bat goes past the front leg. I always look at the front leg of the batter. If the bat goes past that, the barrel of the bat goes past that, then it's a swing, right? For me, that's my guide of what I'm looking for. Say they do say front hip. Okay, I was right the first. I got scared when I said hip, but so yeah, so the barrel of the bat goes past the front hip, then I got it. That's just the only, because it's the only thing I've ever seen, right? That tells you what it actually is. The other, like at the high school rule set, is attempted to swing at the pitch or attempted to strike at the pitch. So but I think if the bat carries past home plate, which carries past the front of the home plate, which is past the front hip of the batter, typically, right? The problem with the crossing the plate is the batter's deep in the box, or they're way in front of the box, and then that plate is a different spot in the swing. So front hip has been the easiest way to do it. Most of the time, not most of the time when you're in two man, you're not going to see that anyway because you're standing out in the middle of the field. So you gotta have a different reference point. But yeah, so if you're on the line, the front hip. Otherwise, if it looked like a swing, it's a swing. Call it a strike. If it didn't look like a swing, then it's a ball. Then it's not a swing. When you're two man, don't be afraid to call it from the middle, if you're sure, right? But make sure you're sure. But if you're sure, don't be scared. Okay, call it a strike. Strikes get us closer to home. Plate guys got to be able to see that. So, as a plate guy in a two man system, like you gotta, or in a one man system, right? You gotta see. You can't appeal to the first base coach. You got to be able to see that and stay locked in to be. It's part of what you got to see as the ball's coming down. So, a lot of the times those check swings happen on low pitchers or balls in the dirt, and you got a 15-year-old kid that can't catch the ball, and you're just it's self preservation. But now we have a check swing, and if you're flinching or bailing, you're not going to see that stuff. But try to see it the best you can behind the plate. Up and in pitches, you're not going to see it because the catcher stands up and you can't see it. But just do your best. The guy that front hip is the best I got for you. Or if they stand in a like middle of the box, the plate helps you out a little bit. But the rule book definition does not help us really. It's really up to interpretation. So you get to the point where you probably watched enough baseball now or experienced enough baseball. You kind of can tell. You can see the check swings on TV. You kind of get an idea. Did he go or did he not? And just use that as your interpretation. So I think I have one more. Yep, so this is another check swing, but it's a different situation. We got two strikes. Or no, it's not two strikes. Is it no strikes? Yeah, there's no first pitch. So what's that call? Ball go. So when I first started, I thought that if the ball hit the dirt, then hit the batter, it wasn't a strike. It wasn't a hit by pitch because it didn't hit the batter directly, right? So if you umpire your first game and know that's not true, you're already ahead of me when I first started. Okay. The ball bounces and hits the batter, it's a hit by pitch, right? But if the batter swings, okay, it's still a dead ball, right? But it is a strike. So because you struck at the pitch. So it's a dead ball. Here it's no count to start, add a strike to so after this play it'd be 0-1, batter stays in the box. Right. If there were two strikes on this play, on this pitch, okay, ball bounces, hit the batter, he swung at it, it is strike three. And you have an out. Okay. If they swing at a pitch that hits them, it is you add a strike to the count. And if it's a third strike, the batter's out. Okay. You have to be able to explain that, especially if it's a hit by pitch and you call somebody out, they're gonna not know how to react to it, right? So yeah, so you have an out because question there, if you have an out when it hits him, it's not a drop third because the ball is dead. So the ball is still dead if it hits him, no matter what. So because the ball is dead, there's nothing else you can do besides add a strike to the count. Yep. So you're going to get this, like, so, Jeff said in the comments, like, there's a college coach that your JUCO coach that didn't know this rule, right? But yeah, if if you're adding a strike to the count, the other time is this too is if the batter doesn't get out of the way or sticks his elbow out, and you add in it, you call it a strike. You call it a strike if the pitch is in the zone, then you would add a strike to the count, and it's an out as well. But it doesn't matter if a batter swings at a pitch, if it hits him, it's always a strike. It's and if it's strike if there's two strikes when it happens, it's a third strike. So something you might not see a lot, but it does happen, and it confuses people, right? Because this major league player was ready to run to first base, right, in this situation, and then got ejected because he didn't know the rule. So it's these odd situations that nobody's seen before and don't understand that cause the confrontation. So if you're able to calmly explain it, if you can use rule book language on it, it helps, right? Say by rule, if the batter swings at the pitch and it hits them, a strike is added to the count, right? Because sometimes you can just confuse them because they don't know the rule book language. And if you start citing the rules, even if you're citing them wrong, it's going to confuse them and they'll believe you in the walkway, right? Do whatever, no matter what you do, is even if you're not confident, act confident, and it'll help you a lot in this situation in life in general. To be honest with you, but all right, so that is all I have for tonight. If you have any questions, I'll hang out here until all the questions are answered. We will again. We'll go next Thursday again. I'll have a topic when I send the email out this week. On Monday, we'll have a topic for the softball and for the baseball sessions, so you get an idea what we're going to talk about. But the sessions will be similar to this. We're gonna talk about plays. We're gonna talk about situations because that's the best thing to prepare you for the season. Come with questions. Come with stuff you want to talk about. There's no stupid questions. All of us have done stupid stuff and have done not known what we're doing. There's like a timing play. It took me 10 years to understand what a timing play was, right? So if you can learn that before your first game or first game in your fifth year, you're still ahead of where I was when I started. So, all right, thanks guys for coming out. We will see you next week. Make sure to go pick up those Rockford games that got given back today.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Report.
Tim's gonna have a game of Freeport before the season's over.
Retro Classic, baby.
There's airports out there you can go do this.
There's two of them.
How many, just out of curiosity, how many umps are there at the freshman games?
Depends where you work. So majority, if
Like St. Charles.
one, well, some freshmen they have one.
Okay.
That conference, it's a Duquesne conference that the St. Charles's are in. They do two guys
so.
JV games.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to drive to Rockford, all the freshmen have two umpires. So
No, that's okay.
Belvedere's not that far away.
And as a old sports guy, but getting back into umpiring after a long break, attending these sessions and then the Wheaton Clinic and the Huntley, I'll be prepared.
Yep. Yeah, and just try to just find situations, right? So there's some I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but there's some Facebook umpire forums. You got to weed through some crap in there, like you got to figure out who the idiots are. But there's some good stuff on there. There is YouTube videos. There's YouTube videos that are made by umpires as umpire training. Those are the better ones. To stay out, don't go to the comment sections because that'll you can figure out with all the people yelling at you during the game,
right?
By going
Exactly.
to the comment section. So, but there's a lot of good stuff to set you up to be ready to go in the season. When I first started, none of this, YouTube wasn't even there, and
right.
I was reading. There's old officiating.com had a forum, So you would you go through and it's an old discussion forum stuff and um but yeah, there's a lot of good
Well, the
resources
rule
out
books
there.
are plenty to read. That's my nighttime reading.
Yeah,
It lets
and
me sleep well.
yeah, in the rules are they're probably the third most important thing out of all the things you can do, right? You got to be able to call balls and strikes. If you can't call balls and strikes, they're gonna eat you up, no matter what level you're at, right?
Right,
And the other part is the most important is handling situations,
right.
being able to handle angry people, handle your own emotions as that stuff comes on, blocking out the idiots from the stands, right? Addressing the stuff that needs to happen, that needs to be addressed, and ignoring the stuff that should be ignored. It's an art, right? And the
Game
best umpires
management.
I know, the best umpires I've ever seen, were really good situation handlers and above average rule book wise, right? And
Right.
they're able to talk themselves out of any situation, even if they don't know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get that and have a calm demeanor, but also demand respect on the field, that's where you're going to get. That's where you're going to be successful, right?
Great.
I'm a calm person 90% of the time, in my real life. I don't get worked up too much, but there's times where you need to get your point across, right?
Right.
And if you save it up and take out that frustration from because you can't do it to your wife because you'll never win that conversation, right?
Right.
But if you can use it a little bit on the field, there's time you gotta channel at the right time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you do it all the time, they're gonna eat you alive or you're gonna get run out. But there's times for it. Um, I'm way better at talking about when to do it than when doing it myself. But you'll find a balance for sure.
And the freshman, sophomore, they have two umps.
Uh, no, freshmen do not.
No, what about I signed up, I have some games they say it's freshman, sophomore. And
So the Duquesne Conference, so the St. Charles, I'm not sure who all St. Charles East and North, and I'm
and
not
with
sure
Geneva, I
Sparks.
signed up at those three schools. Most of them are freshman games. If you
Yeah.
are
So
freshmen, sophomores on Saturdays, I think.
yeah, so sometimes they'll do they'll bring two different teams to play, and
Right.
it's all different there, right? But I'm not sure if they call them fresh soft or they call them JV. Uh,
Right.
but if you look at the codes on your game, right,
Yep.
it'll say the number of games, then the number of umpires. So it'll say 1 and 1 for most of your games. If it
Okay.
says one, then two, that means there's two umpires.
Gotcha.
So you'll get some
Great.
if you work those schools. You work those schools and it's the second level up. If it's either fresh off or JV, then it should be two umpires.
Right.
If there's enough
Great.
umpires to work those games, because there's times where there's not enough umpires.
Sure. Well, great. Thanks very much, guys.